Let's do this. How to teach math to your homeschool kids. I put a prompt out there asking homeschoolers, what do they struggle with more? Math and science, reading and writing. And the scales are heavier on the mathematics side. So I thought I would do, it's probably going to be a 3-part little series on how to teach your kids math as a homeschooler. And the very first thing that I want you to understand is that most of your children are not mathematicians, and that's okay. They're dancers and artists and chefs and horse trainers and astronauts and all those things. Well, an astronaut would need to be a mathematician, but most of the kids are not going to be mathematicians. So, what does that mean? It means that most kids just need their basic foundations in arithmetic, the add, subtract, multiply, divide, fractions, decimals, percentages, measurements, the stuff that they're going to need when they go try to figure out how much paint to buy to paint their house or how to quadruple a recipe for a big party, that kind of stuff. Practical math. And you'll never, ever go wrong by focusing on those basics. Where I see people fall short and stumble is the same place that I stumbled with my oldest. And that was just because he could move forward in math didn't mean that he should have. We pushed him lovingly all the way into pre-calculus, and it was a disservice for him because he has a history brain and a reading brain, and he could do the math, but by the time he got into high school, the math was just giving him migraines, and it just didn't serve him well. So, in this video, I want to talk about the basics of understanding that your foundations for solid math is established in grades K through 2, with the caveat you have to remember that curriculum is created by people that want to sell you curriculum, and they make a very big deal of stamping it with grade levels so that you feel that pressure that if your kids did first grade last year, that means they must need to do second grade this year. But I want you to mentally break free from that. What I'm going to share with you, you do not need formal math curriculum in order to have your kids master their arithmetic. I did use curriculum though all the way through, but I used it backwards or in a unique way. And that would be I would look at the table of contents and I would see if I understood what that lesson or unit was about. And if I did, I would close the book and I would teach it myself. I also had the benefit of having a 12-year gap between my 5 sons. And so when I was teaching multiple kids and we were leaning towards a younger grade, I would actually open up the table of contents to the various books and I would show the boys, look, the books are all the same. It's just that they're using bigger numbers over here, but you're still learning the same stuff. And that was really freeing. So let's dig into this. The foundation stage is necessary for your kids to be able to step into the higher math, to the harder numbers. And it's broken into a couple categories. You have this thing called number sense, you have basic arithmetic, you have basic geometry, and you have vocabulary. Now I'm going to pause right here. When I first started homeschooling, I kind of bucked against embracing the vocabulary of math. I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And so I was very big on we're homeschoolers, so we can say 7 plus 12 if we want to. We don't have to say, what is the sum of 7 and 12? Well, the challenge that I bumped into was that by the time the math got hard enough that I was scratching my head and trying to help the kids figure things out, the way that the books and the curriculum and the videos would describe the math was coming from the perspective of, hey, your kids should know all of this vocabulary. So I'm going to just pause and say 100% of the time, Remember that everything that you and your children study has its own set of vocabulary. And oftentimes, the keys to unlocking something begins with understanding the basic vocabulary. So, with that said, kindergarten through second grade, you want to build strong number sense and basic arithmetic. Now, this kindergarten through second grade is just a benchmark. What I mean by that is it's the foundations, it's the starting place. So, in number sense, it's things like counting to 100 by ones, fives, twos, or tens, recognizing and writing numbers, specifically up to 100 or higher if your kids love it. One of my kids just loved writing their numbers. So, you've got counting by 100, recognizing and writing up to 100, both the numbers and the words, right? And understanding place value, that if you move the one up the like into a bigger number, it's not just one, now it's 10. It's not just one, now it's 100. So understanding place value. And then understanding that some things are bigger than others, and you start to use, oh, you use the alligators, right? But you call them the right thing: greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, those types of things. So, number sense is all about understanding that symbols are used to represent numbers, and those numbers can be used in a way to do things, right? So that's basic number sense. So that's the first category. The second category is basic arithmetic. That's adding and subtracting with facts within the number of 20. Really mastering all the numbers that add and subtract together to get to 10. All the different combinations of things that can add up to 18 or 15. Understanding that in order to show addition or finding the sum of a number, that you use the plus symbol. And if you want to find the difference between two numbers, you're going to use the subtraction symbol, right? So basic arithmetic is adding and subtracting, understanding the basic symbols, and then using not just math on paper, but also moving things around using models and manipulatives and drawings to represent the different facts. You really want your kids to have a solid foundation. So, yes, they should know 3 plus 4 is 7, but they should know that that means 3 of something. And then when you add or pull in 4 of something and you put them together, you end up with 7 of something, right? And so that whole working with the basic arithmetic. So you've got number sense, you've got basic arithmetic. Basic geometry is just understanding the basic shapes. One of my kids was fascinated with geometry. Even though he couldn't read until he was 10, he had done, like, we were using an interactive math program for independent practice because I was outnumbered. And he did all of the geometry, all of it, before he was in fourth grade. He just loved geometry. So understanding shapes. The basic shapes are great: the circles, triangles, rectangles, squares, but you'll want to add in the more complicated ones too: the ovals, the pentagons, the hexagons, all those things. So add those in. And then you want to understand and use words of more than, less than, bigger than, smaller than, those types of things. And within that, within your number sense, your basic arithmetic, your basic geometry, you're going to want to master the basic vocabulary of sum, difference, add, subtract, more, less. The word is represented by the equal sign. So these are the types of things that your kids will learn. Now, the types of activities that you can do if you choose not to use curriculum is you can use everyday objects to do math. Everyday objects: toys, Legos, apples, goldfish, rocks, sticks, doesn't matter. Everyday objects. You can play simple math games. Yahtzee, Monopoly, all those things. Just I always had dice, and we would do those as drills. I'd drop the dice and they would add them. And the older kids, I would just add more and more cubes, right? And then we would incorporate math, or you can incorporate math right into your daily routines. So setting the table with the right number of plates, setting the table with the right number of utensils, making the bed with the right number of pillows. You're just talking math through everyday life. Does that make sense? Now, if you do choose to use curriculum, don't eat guilt pie. Remember, I used curriculum all the way through. However, my kids never did all the problems. And if I had to say, hands down, my favorite math curriculum for kids in that foundation stage, actually all the way through arithmetic, is Evan Moor. And there will be a link below this video. The reason I liked Evan Moor is it was just enough. They aren't overloaded with all of the things that some of the heftier curriculums will have your kids do. There's a time for building endurance muscles mathematically, but this foundation stage is it's laying the groundwork. It's understanding numbers, it's understanding basic arithmetic, it's understanding basic geometry, grasping your vocabulary, and recognizing that math is used every single day. Right? Super important. And it's going to encourage and equip your kids to move forward in arithmetic. The last thought before we bump into the next video is that if you have any kind of math hangups, if you hate math, if you struggled with math, if you get frustrated with math, you're going to need to control your tongue. And I need you to recognize that there's the power of life and death is in the tongue. And you can breathe life into mathematics, or you can breathe death into mathematics. If you are like this sector of homeschoolers that I coach that really, really struggle with leaning into math because it hurts your brain, you're going to want to say, instead of saying, I hate math, I don't get it, you're going to need to embrace a growth mindset where it's okay to say things like, I don't understand this yet, but we're going to study this and we're going to get this together. Growth mindset, super important. Okay, in the next video, we will talk about the next stage where you are expanding the foundations of arithmetic and introducing basic algebraic type concepts. So ready? I'll see you in the next video.